Hello, everyone. Welcome back here to Bases Loaded with Brandon, Blake, and Chris. Took a little bit of a break. Chris decided to go on a vacation to halfway across the world, so he was gone there. But physically, he's back. I don't know if he's all there yet. That time change has got to be rough. I'm not
Yeah,
sure how.
well, the fun thing was watching Padre games. There was a couple 6:07 a.m. local time starts, 11 a.m. There was a couple at 2 a.m. So I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna sleep and hopefully I get some highlights in the morning.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know how you do that there. That is definitely being a trooper there. But we're coming up on the trade deadline. There's been some moves made by Blake and I's team. Chris, Padres haven't done anything, but we got like 20 hours left, so a lot can change. And we saw what happened right before the actual trade deadline last year for the Padres, so you never know what's going to happen there. I would say the biggest move to date is probably going to be Max Scherzer going from the Mets to the Rangers for Ronald Acuna Jr.'s brother, who's just as good, by the way. Like, he's not like everyone keeps saying, oh, it's his little brother. He's pretty good in his own right, y'all. It's
Mhm.
not like he's awful. And from what his brother said, is he's actually better now than Ronald was at that point in their development, which is scary to think about.
I
That he
think
could
that
be
the
better.
craziest thing with that trade though is just how much money the Mets are eating in this deal. Like
Yeah.
it's very fascinating. I mean, we look at the beginning of the season and we sat here and we talked about the arms race in the National League and all these teams just spending money, and the Mets have been, I mean, obviously I'm not one to talk given our situation as well, but the Mets have been a colossal failure this year. I mean, you bring in all this talent, you throw all this money at the problem, and clearly it didn't work.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams lately that have thrown a lot of money at problems and not had great results. And they all seem to be a lot of the National League teams, lately. Uh, I think that the Mets are going to eat a lot more money. I'm still thinking that um, but we were talking before you came in, Chris. There's like the price of everything has kind of gone up now that Scherzer's moved. Um, Montgomery's moved now. So it's kind of like, everybody's kind of waiting on pins and needles to see, is JV going to be one of those last holdouts, like right before the deadline? Does he move like later on tonight, which makes stock go up? There's guys like, you know, there's a whole bunch of arms still in Seattle, or not in Seattle, but in St. Louis bullpen that are being talked about throwing around right now. You got Detroit and stuff like that. I think it's going to be fairly active. I don't think it's going to be huge blockbuster moves or anything like that come out of nowhere like we've seen the last 2 years. But I think that the names that we've thought were going to move are going to end up moving.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just crazy to think about next year. Actually, I don't know if he'll be back next year. With the Rangers, they could have DeGrom and Scherzer, but I don't think DeGrom is going to be back. Or if he is, it's August or September because he did get Tommy John about 2 months ago. So I don't know if he'll be back in time, but Scherzer will be on the Rangers next season. So they got their eight. I think that's why they push so hard. They're like, we need that ace. Our pitching is okay, but if they want us fight off the Houston Astros, they had to make a big move. So they did that with Scherzer. They got a solid complementary piece in Jordan Montgomery from the Cardinals, who was just on the Yankees just a couple years ago. So they're definitely
Look,
making some moves there.
yeah, and I was telling Brandon this, Chris, before you got in. I think the Montgomery move actually worries me more than the Scherzer move. Look,
Mhm.
Scherzer's been great. Scherzer has struggled a lot lately. I think a lot of Scherzer's injuries that are going right now is, if you look at the breakdown of his swing, I wish I could go find it again. There was a really good article that had like actual side by side of him. He has literally changed his windup to where he's coming down lower and putting more of his body into it. And even doing that now for the past 2 seasons, he's actually lost 2 mph off of his fastball. I mean, let's face it, guys. He's 39 years old. Okay, Did the Rangers go out and make a move? Yes, they made a move. But what did they make a move for? They made a move for a shell of a guy and a name, okay? Mad Max can still go out there and be Mad Max and maybe a playoff situation for you. But the only thing that I'm thinking is he got to stay healthy? And the only other thing that I can say, too, about the Montgomery move is it shows what I've thought for a while. There is something seriously wrong with Uvalde. They're holding their cards close to their chest. And like I said the last time on here, if you guys remember me saying, Nathan Uvalde is the greatest pitcher in the world the first half of the season. He's done it literally in Boston. He's done it everywhere he's been, okay? But he has serious problems staying healthy in the second half of the season. And here we are. After the All-Star break, scratched from one start, scratched from the second start, was supposed to make his start Sunday against the Padres. He's scratched again and then gets moved to the IL. I think that right there, was a move out of we got to do something else on top of that, because let's face it too, a lot of people don't realize this, but if you go look at the statistically, the starters, the first half of the season for the Rangers were lights out. Okay. Now they rank, I think, like 23rd. And then if you look at their back end of their bullpen ERA is literally 29th in the league. They know the glaring holes, obviously. Okay. They've seen it. They know what's going on. You've seen the skid, okay? At one point, they almost had a 7-game lead on us, and now it's down to a half game. Astros are winning tonight, so I'm already claiming the win, just so you guys know. But, good for them going actually getting it, The offense has done extreme things, for them. But you got guys like Heim, the catcher that's done great for them. I read a really good piece for them. He has framed so many balls outside of the zone this year. It's almost been like an analytic record, I guess you could say, because they don't really keep that in StatCast or anything like that. Yeah. He has moved over 200 balls back into the strike zone that were balls to count for strikes. He's out, ligament injury. Seager's out right now. Garcia's back and forth with ankle injury and stuff like that. So I feel like this front half of the office has really just nutted up, if you really want to know the truth, to go out there and be like, hey, we got to do something before we start losing any more momentum. So it's going to be really fun the next 60 days to see what happens.
Yeah, I think they'll be going back and forth. It's going to be really great to watch there. For Blake, it's probably not the most fun to have to watch that the next 60 days, and basically the division probably may not be wrapped up until the final weekend. It's actually
kind of cool, to be honest with you. And I don't mean this arrogantly, but if you look at it, the last 6 seasons, it's almost like we've looked for the next person outside of our division, if that makes any sense. Nobody in the division has actually been a threat, if that makes sense. I mean, the Rangers and the Astros kind of had this back and forth momentum struggle was back in 2017. So it's kind of refreshing to have somewhat of a division struggle right now to kind of keep these guys motivated going through.
Yeah, and I mean, you talk about the AL West, and I think one thing to bring up, especially talking about the trade deadline and all of that, is what the Angels are doing. It's clear that they're all in on trying to do everything they can to keep Shohei, and part of that is hopefully a playoff run for them. And I mean, they've won 7 of the last 10. They've been looking really good. They just beat the Braves tonight in Atlanta, which is, not an easy feat. With that Atlanta team was really hot. So that's definitely a team to keep an eye on right now. Getting guys like CJ Cron, getting Giolito to shore up the rotation. They made some, I think, really positive strides at the break. And we had talked about, is Ohtani going to be an Angel at the All-Star break or the trade deadline? Sorry, but the answer is clearly yes, and they're clearly going for it.
All the moves.
It's going to be fascinating to see how this plays out for Anaheim.
They brought back CJ Cron, who is absolutely tore it up for the Rockies.
I'm glad I don't have to see him this week
because that man. So I think they just got to stay right where they are at. Right now they're 4 games back of the final wild card.
Yeah.
If they can stay there until they get Trout back, that's almost like a second half player acquisition. getting Rendon back, I don't think is going to be that big a deal because he really hasn't done much for them since he got there. It's just very weird. Angels and Mariners are literally records are almost identical. But Seattle's kind of like they let their closer go and Paul Sewald. Thank you to the Diamondbacks. We have an actual closer, so hopefully we don't blow so many ninth inning games. Because that's just oh my god, you all should see me. I'm just like yelling, throwing stuff against the wall. Oh my god, it's so frustrating. It's weird because he just played. They literally just played here. He saved 2 games against us. I'm hoping that we make at least one more move for a decent starting pitcher. And the only one, it's not Verlander. Like I don't even want them to. That prospect haul, I was like, I don't know if it's that even worth it. So I think the guy I have my eye on is Eduardo Rodriguez from the Tigers.
Okay.
I think that would be a solid pickup. Has done really good in the playoffs, so they might need that. The month of July has been atrocious for the Diamondbacks. Like they're giving up the most runs. They're scoring the least runs. Just a terrible month of July. So I just want them to get through this month of July, start all over with August. I just need it. Yes, Blake, I did say playoffs for the Diamondbacks. I still think it's possible.
I think it's possible too.
not-
I'm just messing with you.
I'm
think
not
it's
giving up
possible.
on it just yet. Chris, I blame you. Ever since you brought up when we talked about Reds, Marlins, Diamondbacks.
And I said the
Marlins
Diamondbacks
and
were recycling.
Well, Marlins have been playing like crap too.
They all the Reds at least are still playing well, but I feel like I might have jinxed those 2 teams.
I was like, ever since you said that, Diamondbacks and Marlins haven't played well. So let's see. They had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 losses in the month of July. Not good. It's not what you want to happen. It's weird because they looked amazing against the Braves in that 3-game series. And then
that 16-13 game was just
that was
absolutely
crazy.
Bonkers.
I was like, I don't know if everyone's hitting or pitching is just that awful. So, and since they did trade Josh Rojas to the Mariners here for that Paul Sewald deal, I do want them to get a right-handed bat, whether that's an outfielder or a third baseman. I was really high on Candelario, but he went to the Cubs.
Mm-hmm.
So that's out of the question. I wouldn't mind them kicking the tires on Lane Thomas. That one I wouldn't mind seeing what that would cost. Wonder if we could just give them one of our surplus outfielders we have for our prospects, if that would work. Because apparently they see him as an everyday player. So apparently the Nationals are asking teams, do you plan on playing him every day, or are you going to platoon him? They think he should be starting every day. And I think
is he going on loan? Why do they care?
Yeah, I was like, I wonder if they ask that and they say, oh, no, he's going to be a platoon player. They're like, okay, no, we're not trading you. Like, why should we trade him for a platoon role? Like, I'm like, why does it matter how that team plays him if you get good prospects in return? Now, another spot Lane Thomas would be good for is with the Padres. I think you trade for him. You either have him in center or Tatis in center, and you trade away Trent Grisham because Grisham is he's not good.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting, especially in San Diego. I mean, a lot of the talk even last weekend was Snell and Hader are both going to be gone because obviously, you lose control. So do you really want to keep these guys? And I mean, that sweep against the Rangers seemed to kind of flip things here. And I mean, what I was hearing is for them to get rid of Hader, it's going to have to be a haul. And it's not like they're saying no, but they're saying, bring me everything and we'll consider it. So I think it's going to be really interesting. Like, we talked about AJ being sleepy right now. He normally finds a way to make some crazy splash at the deadline. I don't know what kind of splash you make this year. I know I joked a couple weeks ago about maybe first base position, maybe going after a Paul Arenado. Going after Paul Goldschmidt, and that's an option. There's some pieces out there that might work, but I just honestly, now that Suarez is back, and I guess we can kind of get into it because just the Padres seem to finally be turning that corner. Finally, 2 games under 500, which feels like 10 games over the way they've been looking.
They're finally at their longest win streak of the year, 3 games.
Yeah, and a sweep over the Texas Rangers. Blake, here,
y'all are gonna have to make that a lot longer if you want to get into that wild card. If you win 2-3 in a row and then you lose 1 or 2 in a row and then you go back up, you're not going anywhere. They have to go on a longer streak, or they keep doing these 2-3 game ones, lose one, then everyone in front of them keeps doing longer losing streaks. That's the only way that they're gonna be able to vault.
And that's the one thing I find really interesting about the schedule coming up is because, yes, they've got these 3 against Colorado, which I feel like we're in a situation where they have to win these 3. They have to go into Colorado, they have to sweep them. They have 4 at home against the Dodgers after that, so that's going to be a tough series. And then they play 7 against the Diamondbacks in over a week span. So it's that's a team ahead of you. You've got the Marlins coming into town after that. You've got the Brewers, the Cardinals, the Giants. You're getting the opportunity to play all of these teams you're chasing right now. So as long as you can win series and then take those series against those teams, I think they're in a great position right now where they really do control their own destiny.
I think they got to get to 87 wins. I think anything less than 87, I don't think gets it done. Because you asked
me 2 weeks ago, and I would have said 90, but just the way some of these other teams have started to struggle, we talked about the Giants, the Marlins, these teams, the Diamondbacks too. It seems like they're starting to come back to earth a little bit, where I don't think 90 wins is necessarily a requirement there, but yeah.
It's got to be at least 87. I don't see any way that final wild card is not a 87, 88 win team. I feel, and it's still, to be honest, the entire NL wild card is really, there's 7 teams in it. You got right now, the 3 are the Giants, Marlins, and Brewers, followed by the Phillies, Diamondbacks, Cubs, crazy to think about, and Padres. I think it's going to be a mixture of 7 of those teams. I think when it comes down to it, I think the Padres will end up figuring it out because that offense is too good. That offense is too good to not score enough runs. Snell's been pitching very well. Musgrove's been pitching very well lately too. Those are Hughes kind of struggled. He hasn't looked as good as you would hope, but there's still 2 months for him to figure it out. You're probably getting Waka back, hopefully by September 1st. So, yeah, there's a lot there, and you have your 8th inning guy. I think that's what the Padres struggled with the most is how do we get from our starter to Hader? Suarez came back, a week and a half ago, and he's looked like he hasn't missed a beat. And the fact is he hadn't pitched the first couple months. He's going to have plenty of gas in the tank, so they may be able to pitch him 3 straight days or 4 or 5 games in a week because they got to make sure you have the lead in the 7th. Okay, bring in Suarez, then go to Hader. Because you can't afford to just lose these games. You cannot afford to lose these 1-run games, especially where they're at. You cannot afford. Nick Martinez, I don't know why they put him in so much. I understand that he's willing to pitch. He's really not that good.
Well, the problem is, he's really not that good, but what are the other options in that bullpen right now? And that's been one of the issues is there's not a lot of depth when it comes to those arms. So it's if a couple of guys go down, you're in these situations where you're having to put these guys in that just aren't good. Luis Garcia, bless his heart, he's got to be just sent down or DFA or something.
I think it's up here.
I can't deal with this anymore.
It's got to be up here. He was dominant last year. It's just something between the ears. He just has He definitely has to get that figured out. I find it so weird how the Cubs are buyers when everyone thought they were selling like 2 weeks ago. Then they go on
Mhm.
they win like 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
And they're right back in it. They're 3.5 back in the wild card, and the Central is still wide open. Only 4 games back there.
Yeah, if you
So,
would have
yeah.
asked me even 3 days ago, I would have told you Marcus Stroman would have been on another team as of tomorrow.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude, he had an awful start today. Like, he's had
Mhm.
several where he gives up like 6 runs in 3 in. I was like, you're really hurting your draft stock. They're like, I don't know if we can even trade him now.
Yeah, and I mean they're losing tonight, so they lose, Padres win. All of a sudden, the Padres are a game back of the Cubs, and it's just like it's just got to keep happening. But yeah, I mean Chicago's looked impressive, and we thought Bellinger was going to be gone too. Like that's obviously not the case now. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do the second half, and especially in that run because like we talked about, the Central's not world beaters. Like somehow I still think the Reds are the best team in the Central, which is kind of crazy to think about when we look at the beginning of the season. But yeah, I mean, I
They're
think
going
they
to
can
be
chase
good
them
for
off
a
now.
while, y'all. You
Well, we
better
saw
be
what they did in
ready.
LA. What they did in LA this weekend, like,
Mhm.
whew,
Yeah, like Cruz is something else.
Rookie of the
Steer is
year.
You watch your goddamn mouth.
Rookie of the year.
I
The
could go on a
okay. Yes, see, I understand Corbin still overall the year, but you can't deny that what Ellie's doing
Oh,
right now.
no, I
If this
don't
team makes the
deny.
playoffs, like he's catching them.
Yeah, I don't dispute the fact. I just don't like how everyone goes crazy bananas when he hits like a triple or hits a bomb home run, but then he doesn't do anything for a week and a half.
Hey, but
I'm
the
like,
difference
yo,
is his
this
team
man
is
is a
winning in between
physical
those fans.
specimen. He is supposed to hit bombs.
Dude, the
Corbin
guy's
Carroll
got
is like
like 3.
5'9".
Yeah, but De La
160.
Cruz has better hair. He's got 3 last names. He's more marketable. Okay, like he doesn't play in a desert. Like, you want me to keep going on?
No, I don't, because but like,
Hey, let's change the subject real quick.
Corbin Carroll has swings that look like they are routine fly balls. Next thing you know, he hits a home run to center that goes 430 feet. Like his
Boring,
swings
isn't it,
don't
Chris?
look
Boring.
like it.
It's boring.
I,
I'm just joking. I'm playing with Brandon. I'm with Brandon. I think stats stock more. The flash is there, obviously, with De La Cruz. But dude, I mean Corbin Carroll. It's been, even when he was in a slump, when he was hurt, and he's been back and forth off of just not even the IL, but just sitting out for a game or two, trying to nurse his body back into health. He comes right back and he does it again. We know it. We just like to mess with you. I'm with you. I'm team Corbin all day. I love the guy. He's done wonders, honestly, for my fantasy team. I couldn't have been
because he
happier
gets
to
you all those
important
points
thing.
with
The important thing.
singles, stolen bases, home
dude,
runs.
all of it, dude. Like, and what's really cool in my league too is like I played in the same league for years now, and I've been kind of like beating the drum that we never got points for stolen bases. So they finally implemented that this year, and I promise you, like every week, because I have Tatis, I have him, I have Altuve. Like all of my team, they steal bases. Like I guarantee you, if I did analytics on my team, I'd probably show that I get anywhere from 20 to 30 points a week just on stolen bases. Real quick, I know we like to do it, and we'll just spend a little moment on it. But I don't know if you guys saw the tweet from Fox Sports, but with tonight's loss, the Yankees finished the month of July with 10 wins and 15 losses. The last 2 games, the team combined for 30 strikeouts and is obviously and currently in last place in the AL East. I follow a lot of like Yankee fans on Twitter because some of them actually have really good takes, and we've gotten that rivalry over the past couple of years. But honestly, like this team is honestly like I've seen, or not this team, but this fan base, like I have seen a lot of people say that they would honestly be pissed off if they were by line. And that's kind of, I've never seen Yankee fan be not act like the whole trade deadline that every team in the MLB is their minor league that they can just take from. You know what I mean? So it's really interesting to see not only that, but to see just not only the downward spiral that team's been on all season long. Pitching's nowhere, you know, nobody can hit like the ball or anything like that. Rizzo slump, you know, I think the guys had
Rizzo's
one home run in the last
Yeah.
like 60 days, you know. He's batting like I think like 160 or something like that. But it's crazy to see that, you know. But at the same time, it's pretty cool to see some of the young bloods over in Baltimore actually do the damage that they are doing in actually kind of reviving that baseball town, because a lot of people don't realize that, you know, Baltimore is a baseball town, you know.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see that hasn't had that joy in a long time actually get behind their team. And I mean, they literally blew the roof off of them Sunday night, which was really, really enjoyable to watch. I got to watch one inning of baseball and got to turn it off and was like, well, that game's over.
There was 6 runs in the first.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, if you have not noticed, I know it's been a while, but last Monday I was at the game and I got to see Chapman come in for the Rangers and get the home run knocked off of him from McCormick. So of course I thought it would be fitting to wear Chapman.
Say, is that what you're wearing?
You know, but it was so cool because cool moment was, you know, Mike going to the game with me. We had won tickets, and so it was cool that he came in and Micah was like, isn't that the guy that was on the Yankees team? Because Micah and I were at the Altuve walk-off game back in 2019. And I go, yeah. And what was awesome is, dude, he got up, and everybody knows Chaz and Tucker have gone on a tear this year for both of us for this month. He started doing the Chaz chomp, man, and I was recording him. And as soon as like I heard the bat hit the ball, I turned and looked and accidentally stopped the recording. But at that moment, like Chaz just went donkey of Chapman, and I was just like, no way. And Micah was like, his name is Chaz. His name is Chaz. And he was like, that's the second time we've seen Chapman poo the bed. I was like, I've never been more proud in my life, because that's like a saying all the time, like that we talk about around here. And like I got my 9-year-old son going, he pooed the bed. He pooed the bed.
That's great.
Yeah.
That is just quite hilarious.
So we kind of heard Brandon go on what he wants. Chris, what realistically do you want if you could have one scenario that you've heard? And we got 20 hours left. Okay. What do you need and what do you want if you can make a move right now?
Yeah, I think the really hard thing is, I think at this point we need bullpen arms. So we would need some sort of bullpen arm to come in. But really, I know we should want a first baseman, but I am okay standing pat right now, honestly. Like I think this team does have enough talent. The depth on the bench worries the hell out of me, because you look at guys like Chapman, who has been complete bust, unfortunately. Like and you know, like a lot of the guys that we brought in that we expected to play well off the bench have not been great. I think with the DH situation now is going to probably be some sort of combination of Gary Sanchez and Campusano's platooning at catching and just kind of switching off there,
or giving one of these,
giving them breaks, because you can shuffle.
Fielding.
You can shuffle Jake, you can shuffle Ha-Sung around the infield there. So, I mean, really, it's one of those things where I don't see a move right now, unless the one move I really do truly see happening is somebody throwing enough at them for Josh Hader where they actually do sell him. But like I said, I think that would take a massive haul for that to happen.
Yeah, like first of all, Matt Carpenter should play once a week. I'm sorry. He's been the only reason he has not been released is the contract.
Yeah.
Like that. I think I saw it was like $12 million. I'm like, geez. Like they were hoping to catch lightning in a bottle again with what he did with the Yankees. He has not been that. Ha-Seong Kim is just insane. Like,
I mean,
if you look at WAR,
you can make
he's
a legit
number
case.
one in WAR.
He's probably
What the
our MVP
hell?
this season. Like without him, like we're in a lot worse hole. But like, just let's talk about him for a second. And just when he came to the majors, he struggled his first 2 years because he couldn't catch up to the fastball. He always had the glove, but the bat wasn't there, and there was just a lot of questions of if he was ever going to get that bat to come around. If you look at his past like month and a half, 2 months, the man is on a tear right now. He is swinging the bat. He's stealing bases. He is an amazing defensive player, and his ability to play second, short, and third and play a Gold Glove quality at each of those positions right now, he has been such a huge, huge piece of this Padres team. And it's really cool to watch it from what happened when he started in San Diego to where he is now, just how much he's improved overall and become that complete player.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see, is there anyone going to be moved before 6 p.m. Eastern tomorrow that no one is currently talking about? Because I feel like there's been like a list of guys that keep coming up that are probably being moved. But like, is there anyone that like we haven't heard that would be like, oh my gosh? Because I know that we were last year, Juan Soto, the talk was he's going to be moved. It's just who's going to go ahead and get him. Like, we knew that was coming. I'm just wondering, is there – I really want to see someone that gets moved that, like, no one's talking about. Like, because we got Eduardo Rodriguez and Michael Lorenzen from the Tigers, Lane Thomas and Kyle, I think it's Ferguson from Nationals. Dodgers had just made a bunch of just low risk moves.
Yeah.
The fact that they got Rosario for Noah Syndergaard is just ridiculous.
It was. But then they also brought Kelly back and they brought Kiki Hernandez back. So it's like cool.
Yeah, and then they also got I think they got Lance Lynn there with Joe. Lance Lynn's been awful, but change of scenery. And knowing the Dodgers' top-tier player development, just watch him just turn it around the last 2 months. Like I can just feel it coming there. Giants traded for AJ Pollock, and literally all they had to give up was cash and a player to be named later. So that was just like, here, take him. We don't want him. Seattle. Teoscar Hernandez would be interesting. Like, there's talks that he's going to be moved, and also Ty France apparently could potentially be moved. So there's
I think one name to keep an eye on is I do think Jake Cronenworth could be that possibility if someone's willing to take on that contract, because his limited no trade clause doesn't take effect till next year. And we talked about Ha-Seong Kim, and honestly, if you're asking me who I would rather keep, it's Kim over Cronenworth every day. Like, it's just he's Cronenworth's a very good second baseman, but he is not what you need as an everyday first baseman. And that's why I kind of joke about the Goldschmidt thing, where I think they can work something out where Cronenworth goes to St. Louis, they get a decent piece that they can hold on to, and you slide Goldie at first, you put Kim at second, and that's
Goldie's pretty like Goldie's getting up there.
He is, but I mean,
so
it's like
I'm like, if you're trying to build for the future, I don't know if I get why they don't want to trade Arenado. He's still fairly young. I think he's 34 or around there. Goldie's like 36, 37. So
yeah,
if you're trying to plan for the future, I don't know if that's there. Cronenworth is really young, but I think he's a better second baseman. He's only playing first out of necessity so that they can get him in the lineup. It'd be interesting if Padres went and traded back for Ty France. I think he's probably a better first baseman, and he's a better hitter, I think, than Jake. But Jake's left-handed hitter, and people love having left-handed hitters over right-handers. So But no, I'm very curious to see if there's going to be anyone that gets moved that really hasn't been the talk the last week. We know Shohei's not going anywhere after all the buying the Angels have done, so that's not happening. Verlander most likely will be moved. I don't see why the Mets wouldn't do it unless these teams are kind of digging their heels in and like, no, we are not going to pay that contract, or no, we are not giving you one of our top prospects for him.
Yeah.
So that's the only way that I think he stays there. Mets traded Mark Canada today for basically nothing to the Brewers. So there's another piece that they sold. I think I heard Tommy Pham was linked to the Cubs for one of their top prospects. Cubs are thinking about making that move for Tommy Pham. So yeah, there's still a lot of potential players that could be moved. So refreshing Twitter just all the time tomorrow, like I did last year. And I actually lost my shit when I saw Soto got traded to the Padres.
You and me both. You and me both.
Oh my god!
But no, man, it's crazy that the trade deadline's upon us, and not only that, like it feels like every day I look at the MLB schedule and go, there's some good, like, meaningful matchups. Like, you look at what's going on right now. You've got the Phillies and the Marlins playing right now. You've got the Cubs playing Cincinnati. You've got Cleveland and Houston.
Diamondbacks and the Giants.
Diamondbacks, Giants. Like, there's so many tasty playoff matchups, game in and game out. Baltimore and Toronto right now is a really big series. And then, like, obviously you can look every weekend, every, like, beginning of the week and go, okay, I'm at that point now where I'm starting to scoreboard watch, and I'm like, okay, who do I need to look at? Where are they at? What's their score? So we're kind of turning that corner right now from to the home stretch.
Yeah. I just want this trade deadline to be over, just so we can kind of put it behind us. Then it was all right. Let's just focus on the rest of the season, not this. Oh, what moves are we making? Will it help us out? I really do hope that the D-backs make at least one more move for a starting pitcher. I think if they can get a starting pitcher, I think that will be enough to have them sneak in to the playoffs, unless this July skid somehow eases its way into August. Because they're really, like, they're one game back of the final wild card. I remember when they were up like 3 games in the West and they were ahead of the Dodgers. I was like, oh, is this finally our year? And then the Dodgers do what they do, Diamondbacks do what they do. So
would you take like a Jack Flaherty or a Rich Hill?
Flaherty has been linked, so I think he's on an expiring deal. So a rental, I'm like, just it would have to be a very low level prospect. Like, I feel like not giving up a lot.
I'm with Brandon on that. I think if you were able to get him and you still had years on the contract, I think somebody could fix him. And I know
Strom could. Strom without a doubt could
definitely fix him. Getting him, he has had some decent outings, but it's like he comes out and he takes 2 steps forward and then he goes on a skid for multiple games. I'm still look. There's been a lot of chatter. The whole Verlander thing came up last week, and the reason why the Verlander thing came up last week was because it has come out, obviously, from the front office that the Astros were not only trying to get Cease, but they were actually trying to see if they could get Robert as well. And the asking price, even just for Cease, was out of this world. I'm going to be interested to see if even he moves, even though the White Sox have kind of sold off everything as well. Yeah. But the asking price, from what I've heard on that, is like basically a treasure trove. Okay. But I honestly don't think – I think there will be somebody willing to pay him when the clock starts getting closer, or pay the team to actually get him. But I think it's going to be pretty interesting, We've seen a lot of high costs on things, but I think this is the first trade deadline too that we've actually seen where we don't have a lot of starting pitching names that are actually available options. So it's going to be interesting to see like how much people are willing to to give to kind of push it up, because I think it's the first time in a long time that, we don't have an outlook on. I feel like always this time this year, we always know where 3 or 4 of the teams are going to land in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And once you really think about that, outside of the Braves, it literally could be anybody else's game when it comes down to that, when it comes down to the playoff push. So I think a lot of teams, so they're demanding more than just the house and the barn this time around.
Yeah. I know. I think it was like a week and a half ago. White Sox said they are not trading Dylan Cease, and I'm like, why? You've been mediocre for so long. You could get a amazing haul if you did deal Cease. I was like, you traded almost all of your other good arms out of that starting rotation in Penn. What's one more? Like,
I mean,
you
it
just
could
need
be
to do-
posturing where they're telling everyone no so that they're getting a little bit more. It's like, really, you talk about this time of year, and for most teams, like, everyone's going to listen. They're going to at least listen. It doesn't mean they're necessarily going to pull the
like
trigger, but
gonna
somebody
take
might
the
say
phone
something
call.
where you're like, yeah, I'm not, so it's like publicly they're probably saying he's staying, but I mean, same thing in San Diego with Snell and Hader. They've said, oh, they're not going anywhere, but until the trade deadline passes, like, I wouldn't be shocked if either of them were gone, honestly.
Yeah, I think a lot of GMs that final 2 hours start getting a little bit more anxious. All right, I have to make a move now. So maybe something that they said no 3 days ago, they might be willing to just say, screw it, fine, I'll do it. So we'll have to wait and see. I think that's what a lot of these sellers, like the White Sox, might do. They may say, yeah, maybe for Cease a week ago, they're like, we want 3 of your top prospects. And then the team's like, no. And then maybe tomorrow they bring it up again, and you're like, God, I got an hour here. I gotta make a move to help out my team. You may be willing to bite the bullet if it helps out your team. Like, I think Cease is the big arm. I think he might be a bigger get than Verlander because he has so much control. Like, Cease is, I think, not a free agent until like 25 or 26. So the control on Dylan Cease would be, it's not just a rental. Like, you have him for a while.
Makes it worth the haul.
He's the one guy. He's the guy I want the Diamondbacks to go after, because him with Gallen would just be beautiful. And Strom has done wonders for Gallen. Just trying to think what he could do with Dylan Cease just gets me so excited. But my expectations on that are low.
You guys just made a move.
Whoa, we got someone else? Oh, God. They did need a third baseman. Oh, my
Good
God.
job.
They got Jace Peterson. You weren't lying. Oh, my Lord.
I mean, it's technically a move, yeah.
It's a move from a minor league team. I mean, from Oakland. But,
Oh, my Lord. I guess technically that's, oh, my Lord.
It's a move.
It is a move.
You got to move pawns sometime, okay? You got to move pawns sometimes, okay?
It's literally probably just to have someone on the roster. So, I mean, yeah, I think the only other move the Astros make is Verlander.
Hey, you know what we haven't talked about? We haven't talked about us getting Graveman back. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, that was a huge pickup.
I think what that does now is it helps us set up the dynamic that we had last year. Having Montero on, he's literally just completely lost it this season. But what was so dynamic and what has been so dynamic for the Astros on their success is having 3 guys that come in the 7th, 8th, and 9th, and bringing Graveman back will actually make it to where I really think Abreu becomes your 7-inning guy, and you bring in Graveman and 8 and finish off with Presley. Graveman was a guy that I really, really wanted to sign when he actually walked from us when we got him from Seattle back in 2019. But to have him back and have him see him actually excited to be back too is awesome, because that has been a really big struggle part for us, is the back end of the bullpen. I think we have it finally figured out. So for them to actually add that guy kind of boosts the juggernaut that is this closing staff.
It's funny because was it last year or was it 21 where you were not high on Abreu whatsoever?
Oh, I wasn't. In fact, if you'll remember, I cringed the whole playoffs, because if you actually go look at his stats from even last year, he did not turn it on to the playoffs last year. And I just kept holding my breath. What's crazy about it is when we brought on Neris, we thought that Neris was going to be that guy. And Neris was that guy in the 7th inning for a while for us. But Abreu has earned that spot, obviously, since the playoffs, and he's figured it out. The guy always had speed. It was trying to locate his pitches, and not only locate his pitches, but reach back and locate them on a consistent basis. Okay. He was wild. I think he's finally figured that out. And it's shown wonders this season, for him actually doing that. So to have that triple threat, then that they can come in and finish out games and tie games at that too, because we are on, I think, 33 games that have been decided by less than 2 runs for the Astros this season, which is huge because we're used to winning those, to be honest with you. And that's what's been the success of this club. That club has been able to wing out games. So to have the pitching and to have the offense, you got to have it all together to win those games.
Yeah, I mean, Abreu's had a really good last 15 games, 14 and a third, 22 Ks with only 5 walks. So as you were saying, that control issue looks like he's starting to get it under control. If you have a solid 7th, 8th, or 9th, it's really tough to blow those games. Like when you have guys that have set roles, okay, either we're tied or we're winning, and we're probably within that 3 or 4 run lead. That guy knows, all right, I'm coming in the 7th. That guy knows he's in the 8th. That guy knows he's in the 9th. You're really tough to beat there because you don't get 9 innings to win. You get 6 now.
Right.
So it's a lot more difficult to kind of win those games. Graveman, going back to you guys because he was with you before. And then he goes to Seattle. You guys trade for him again. Oh, yeah. This time he's with the White Sox. You trade for him again. This is the third time.
The second. The second. He came up in the Mariners club. We traded for him He was with us for a season. It was a rental. And then they tried to re-sign him, but he ended up going to Chicago. So we traded for him again. But now he's happy to be with us. At first, he wasn't happy to be with us, but now he's kind of bought in. It's a strange thing that like winning does for you,
Yeah, definitely.
Not only that, but what 3 years in the South Side of Chicago will change your mind really quick,
Especially a season with Tony La Russa.
Oh God, yeah.
I mean, so it was 21 that you guys traded for him.
Yeah.
Then in 22, he was with Chicago, and then in the first half of this year, he's with Chicago. So he's been in for you guys for 1 game, 1 hit. So it's fine. Wasn't awful, wasn't amazing. So, but that's only 1 game there. So, we'll see if the Padres can continue what they've been on here this weekend. See if they can finally. You got to get over 500. If you're under 500, it just feels like the playoffs aren't there.
It's now or never. Like, and I was talking about it earlier, but after these 3 games against Colorado, you're in a gauntlet. So it's like you've got the Dodgers, you're in Seattle, you're in Arizona, you've got Baltimore and Arizona back to back at home, and the Marlins, and the D-backs, Orioles, D-backs, Marlins. There's no off days, so that's 3, 6, 10. That's 13 games in a row against those teams. So I mean, that's the season right there.
Yeah, if they can have a winning record, I think the rest of the year, if they can get to that 87 wins, I think 87, 88 wins should do it, but we'll have to see.
They will finish with a better record than the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Ooh, hot take. You're probably not wrong on that one. Because the way I just hope we get this pitching. I mean, offense has been cold as just ice cold. Like, I think right now we have one hit through like 5. And it's just so frustrating. Like, starting pitching hasn't been bad, but offense isn't doing anything, and then bullpen has to be like almost perfect, and they're not. Because our manager does not know how to use our bullpen. But hopefully, with us having a actual assigned closer for the first time all year, hopefully that helps these guys know what their roles are. So we'll see if there's any major moves made between now and tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard. Everyone, thanks for tuning in. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you all next time.